Gentlemen, this Friday Field Notes is a little bit different. Normally, I would record something specifically for you, but in this case, I gave a quick presentation on 7 effective communication strategies as the receiver of information. Often when we talk about or hear about being a better communicator, it's filtered through the lens of when you communicate with others. But how do we be good listeners? How do we be good receivers of that information? And this is crucial, whether it's a personal, platonic or romantic relationship, or in the professional space. Your ability to listen effectively, hear what people are saying, process the information that needs to be processed, and then come up with a course of action is going to differentiate between failure and success. So this is a recording that I did in our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, and I hope you enjoy. I hope you get some good feedback. If you're interested in what the Iron Council is all about, we are closed for enrollment right now, but we will be opening back up in a couple of months. And you can check that out at orderofman.com/Iron Council. In the meantime, guys, please enjoy this topic, this presentation on effective communication for the receiver. And I want to talk about effective communication with people, but I want to talk about it in a little bit different context than we normally hear it. When we typically hear effective communication, we hear it through the lens of how you're to communicate effectively with other people. And there's value in that. Obviously, we need to know how to do that. And I think we talk about that ad nauseum at times. But I want to talk with you guys about effective communication from the position of the receiver of that information. Because I believe there is a huge, huge responsibility that the receiver of information has too in a healthy discussion and conversation. Whether it's something here where you guys are sharing feedback with me and I'm receiving it, or an employee-employer relationship, and maybe your employer is telling you that he has a new initiative, or your wife is communicating with you and she's explaining how she feels. We have a really, really powerful opportunity to be a great communicator in that conversation as the receiver. And I tend to look at communication as 100% activity. It's like the adage when you hear about a marriage and they say a marriage is not 50-50, it's 100-100, meaning the husband's pouring 100% in and the wife is pouring 100% in. If it doesn't work that way, it doesn't work. Communication is the same way. The person communicating the message has a 100% responsibility of an effective delivery of that message so it's received and acted on. Also, the receiver of the information has 100% responsibility in receiving that information correctly, accurately, and processing it in a way that leads to results. So again, we talk a lot about communication from the delivery. I want to talk about it from the receiver. So I've got 6 points and actually 7 points here based on our conversation today that I just added one to it. But number 1, here's the first point. Know the outcome of what's happening. Know the outcome of what's happening. And we can actually use a lot of the more heated conversations that we had today to explain some of these points. The outcome, as guys are sharing what they're sharing, is not anything personal. It's not to get at somebody. It's to move the mission forward. So what I think it's important to understand is that people are people. Human beings are flawed. We have emotions. We don't always say what we mean. And our job as receivers of the information is to know what the outcome is before we get into the conversation. Because if you know what the point of the conversation is, then you can afford people a little bit more grace, and you can have a little bit more of an understanding and a litmus test in how to filter the message through the outcome that's trying to be received. And you can also be an active participant in the conversation because you know what the end result is. So if there's ever a point where somebody's delivering a message and you have no idea why they're delivering that message or communicating it with you, it's really important to understand or ask, hey, where do you see this going? What would you like the outcome to be of this conversation when we're all done? If that isn't clearly stated and you don't know what that is, I think it's entirely appropriate to ask the person, what is it that they're trying to achieve? Because then everything else can filter around that. Number 2, have established boundaries. Have established boundaries. As the receiver of the information, it's still okay for you to have parameters in which you expect to be treated. So if you're getting into a heated argument with your wife and she's telling you how big of a piece of shit you are because of what you did or didn't do, that might not be acceptable to you. And you need to be able to understand what is acceptable and not acceptable to you, and then communicate that to her. Hey, hon, I'm willing to have this conversation with you. I want to hear what feedback you have for me because I want to be a better husband and father for you and the family. But I expect that to be done in a civil way. So you will not call me names. You will not raise your voice to me, and you will treat me with the respect I deserve. And by the way, I'll do the same things for you. And if at any point in time it moves outside of that, then I'm going to go ahead and step away from the conversation because this is how I expect to be treated. We teach people how to communicate with us through our responses. And if you let somebody run all over you or treat you like garbage, they're going to. And it might not even be deceitful, but that's what's going to happen. So know what your boundaries are, know what you expect. Also, time boundaries. You know, some of us are a little bit more long-winded than others. If we're having a conversation and you have a time constraint, it's okay to communicate the time constraint. If I've got something going on, Frank, I might have to say to you, hey, Frank, I have a half an hour today. And that's it. And if we need to finish the conversation up, we can finish it at a later date, but I only have 30 minutes today. And it's okay to end a conversation. So if we bump up on that half hour mark, hey, Frank, I told you I only have a half an hour. I have to get to this other meeting, because it's doing that other meeting a disservice too if you don't honor that other meeting that you created. So have the boundaries. Frank, I'm kind of giving you a hard time, but kind of telling the truth. All right. Number 3, strive for understanding. Okay. Strive for understanding in the conversation. Do not play dumb. Okay. It's not conducive to a healthy conversation. I just told you, we mess up, we screw up, we get emotional, we say the wrong things, we trip over our words, we say things that we don't mean, or it doesn't come out the way that we see it in our minds. You don't need to get tripped up in all of that. You need to strive for understanding to the goal that we just talked about in point number 1. What was the goal and what is this person saying? And try to understand where that person's coming from. Try to see it from their point of view. Try to offer a little bit of grace and class and afford that person the respect that they deserve. You're having a conversation. They deserve some level of respect. If you didn't respect them at all, probably just disengage from the conversation entirely, but you're having the conversation. So what is it that they're trying to communicate? And give them some grace, because they're going to mess up the same way we do when we communicate. One thing I often kind of laugh at is, it's kind of an interesting thing, but when you look at presidents, for example, you know, the media takes their words and takes all of their messaging and their speeches, and they just like pick apart every little stumble of every little word. I mean, can you imagine if you and I were scrutinized to that level? We'd have so many mess ups too. And that's not to excuse behavior necessarily, but it is okay to afford some grace and leniency, because people suck at communicating, myself included. And this leads me to point number 4, which is giving people the benefit of the doubt. Like, how often do we get offended and do we get upset? And then what we start to do is we assume the worst of other people. This person's an asshole. They're out to get me. They don't like me. Why is he a dick? He's an idiot. And we attack that person because of how we feel about that. Just give people the benefit of the doubt. Even if you're wrong, I think it's better to give people the benefit of the doubt. One of my favorite quotes around this subject is, never attribute to malice what could be attributed to stupidity. We're dumb, guys. We are dumb. We're emotional. We stumble over our words. We often don't have the right words. We lose focus. We're distracted. We're thinking about other things. So when I communicate something, I would hope that you guys give me a little bit of grace and give me the benefit of the doubt, the same way that you would want that benefit of the doubt when it comes to you communicating. Number 5, a willingness to clarify. It's okay that you don't always understand things. People communicate differently. They have different communication styles. Sometimes they see things so clearly over here, but they can't articulate it in a way you can receive it. And that's okay. If you don't understand what somebody is saying, clarify respectfully. Hey, I don't understand what you mean by that. Can you help me understand what you're saying? Hey, can you say that a different way? Because I'm having a hard time following it the way you're sharing it with me. Is there another way you can explain that? Again, I'm not putting it on them. Is there another way you can explain that so I can understand? You're not pointing at them like, well, you're not explaining that right. Why are you explaining like that's dumb? Nobody gets it when you explain it like that. You see the difference? At that point, you're being kind of a dick. It's not to get at them. Look at it through your own lens. Hey, Jay, you're sharing this idea with me. It's important to me. I want to know what you're saying. I'm having a hard time following. Can you say that a different way? Because I'm a little thick and dense at times. Even make fun of yourself. Okay, that's the grace that we need to give to other people. I don't need to say, Jay, you're an idiot. You can't explain that right. That's not the case. He sees it very clearly in his mind, and it's different than the way I see it. So just let's talk about it a little differently so we both understand. And I'm trying to rush through this a little bit, guys, because I do want to get you at it here on time. Number 6, and then I have number 7. So I have 2 other points. Number 6, do not engage in logical fallacies. They do not engage in logical fallacies. There's a really good resource. I'm going to pull it up here real quick. And it's called yourlogicalfallacyis.com. Yourlogicalfallacyis.com. And right on the homepage, they've got about, it looks like 20 or so logical fallacies that you can look at. The ones that stand out to me that I often hear is the straw man argument, right? And the way they define the straw man, for example, is misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack. How often do you have conversations like that where somebody makes a point or clarifies on something that you're not even arguing? That's a straw man. The next one I hear quite often is the ad hominem attacks, where, you make a point that somebody doesn't agree with and they say, well, you're an idiot. What the hell do you know? It has nothing to do with the argument. Now you're attacking their character or attacking their motive, right? The only reason here's one I hear a lot. The only reason he's doing that is because he's trying to make money. Okay, you're attacking the motive. You don't know another person's motives. So attack the issues, address the issues. And the other one I hear quite often is appeal to authority. Well, what do you know? You didn't go to college, as if college is the ultimate authority on that particular subject. Or show me your source. Where's your source? Right? These are the things you often hear. It's these appeals to authority. If the other party doesn't acknowledge the authority, it's useless. It's pointless. Another one you hear often is appeal to God. That's also an appeal to authority. Well, we shouldn't do that because it's in the Bible. Well, what about the people who don't believe in the Bible? Like that just weakens your case. There's no case. You might think it's a case, but you're communicating with somebody else and they don't believe it's a case because they don't believe in that authority. So you have to be careful of appealing to authority. Those are a couple that stand out to me. The last point, guys, here, when it comes to receiving information, this might be one of the hardest ones to do. And I think it really can be underscored in difficult conversations like we had today. And that is, don't take things personally. Do not take things personally, even if they're personal, because it makes you sound emotional. It makes you sound silly. It makes you say and do dumb things, and it makes you sound petty. Don't take things personal. Again, to go back to the point number 4, give people the benefit of the doubt. If Jay and I are having a conversation and he's never done this, and I can't imagine he would, and he gets really heated about something, he says, dude, you're such an asshole. I'm not going to take that personally. Now, he's right, I am, but I'm not going to take it personal because it does nothing to help this conversation. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because Jay has never said that to me. I can't imagine him doing that. If he did, I might say, Jay, hold on, let's take a pause. Boundaries, right? Let's take a pause. We're not going to attack each other. I'm not going to engage in that. But hey, man, like this doesn't sound like you. Is everything okay? That's point number 4, giving people the benefit of the doubt. Guys, it's important not to take things personally, even if they are. Rise above that. Even today, I can tell you, and full disclosure, as I hear these things, I feel it. I can feel it. The temperature rise. The blood starts to boil a little bit. You get defensive. Ego gets in the way. I felt that today as I'm trying to communicate this with you. But again, we're not taking things personally. I think if all of us adopted these 7 strategies a little bit more effectively, we would have better relationships. More opportunities would be presented to us. more people would give us the benefit of the doubt. We would have a greater understanding about who people are, the people that we love and care about in our lives, and more shit would get done. So that's my message to you guys. Again, just to rehash real quick. Number one, know the outcome. Number two, have established boundaries. Number three, strive for understanding. Don't play dumb. Number four, give people the benefit of the doubt. Never attribute to malice what could be attributed to stupidity. Number five, a willingness to clarify if you don't understand something. Number six, do not engage in logical fallacies. And number seven, never take anything personal, even if it is. Rise above that. Be better than that. All right, guys, that's it.